Hi everybody, it's Stefan Molyneux from Freedomain Radio. I hope you're doing very well. These are a few quick news items with tasty philosophical angles, which I hope you will find helpful. First, I have had a deluge of requests to talk about the BP spill or eruption of oil in the Gulf, and I don't really know what to say that I haven't said before, so I'll keep it very concise. A corporation is a mutant legal shield that is created by the state to protect corporate executives from liability for their actions. It is vile, it is disgusting, it is a fascistic state creation. It has nothing to do with the free market whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. Corporations are invented for two reasons. One is to levy further taxes on the workers by having a corporate tax which further reduces their wages. And second, it is the way that the government pays off the rich for supporting the government. It is a way to give them the legal shield for their operations. So if you're a BP executive and they say, do you want to spend another $500,000 to sort out this blowout protection thing? It's like, what do they care? Fundamentally, you can't go after them personally because they're shielded by this corporation. And so, of course, they're going to make decisions that are immediate to their own self-interest. So corporations are created to exactly excuse just this kind of issue. The Exxon Valdez spill in Alaska a number of years ago, the corporation ended up being liable for about $500 million out of the original $2.5 billion of cleanup and things. None of the executives lost their homes, none of the executives lost their savings, none of the executives lost their liberty, because there's this thing called the corporation, which shields people from liability. You get to keep all the profits, you see, but you don't get to assume the legal risk as an individual, which is a pretty sweet treat. If you're a sociopath, it is a pretty disgusting thing if you're a fan of the free market. So, of course, there's a cap of $75 million on the liability that BP is going to have to pay, and none of the BP executives or any of the other executives from Halliburton or any of the other companies that are involved in this are going to face any personal consequences whatsoever, and it's all complete nonsense. It's like Toyota getting hit with a $16 million fine. Well, Toyota's not going to pay it. The customers are going to pay it through increases in Toyota's cost. So if you say Toyota's customers pay, that's the accurate news, which you'll never see. And so this is all nonsense. And the thing I want to mention about, oh man, when you get this kind of clarity through philosophy, the world just seems like an entire game of psychedelic twisters, the mental contortionists who could give the Cirque du Soleil dancers a run for their money or a twist for their pretzel, turn themselves into knots to avoid the basic realities of what is going on. Let's just take the U.S. government. It doesn't really matter which government you point at, but let's tickle the leg of Uncle Sam for a moment. The U.S. government, through its destructive foreign policies alone, has been responsible for the deaths of about 30 million people around the world. The U.S. government regularly incarcerates significant percentages of its own population for non-violent, quote, crimes, such as having the wrong piece of vegetation in their pocket. The U.S. government approves torture. The U.S. government sends people overseas to be tortured. The U.S. government starts wars that kill hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and Afghanis for no reason whatsoever. Well, I guess and the U.S. government, of course, props up oil dictatorships around the world. If you really want to get free of dependency on oil, stop propping up the oil dictators, and that would be a good start. But that, of course, is never going to happen. This is what's so mad about the human species at the moment. And I mean, you have to look at it as funny, or, I don't know, you take a swan dive. The government, the U.S. government, that destroys the minds of poor children in inner-city public schools, that kills foreign farmers slowly by dumping crops in their countries, and then complains that they want to come into the United States. The U.S. government that incarcerates its own citizens, that has destroyed habeas corpus, that has upheld the Patriot Act. And this is Obama, right? This is the same dude, right, that has upheld the principles of torture, that blames low-ranking local sociopaths for the decisions of high-ranking sociopaths in the military-industrial complex through Abu Ghraib. This same genocidal, murderous, violent, sociopathic institution is clamored at by all the Greenpeace-type folks, all the tree huggers in the world, because they somehow imagine that this government, which has slaughtered 30 million people, is going to give a shit about some sea otters. Are you kidding me, people? It doesn't care about your fish. If it doesn't care about your children, and it doesn't care about the lives of Iraqis, and it doesn't care about the people getting gang-banged in prison, It's not going to care about your freaking shrimp. Can we at least understand that? This is not a place you go to for peaceful, permanent, long-term solutions. Nobody in the government is going to lose their job because they failed to provide correct oversight to this. Just as nobody at the SEC lost their job because Bernie Madoff pillaged all the savings of the old and the rich, and sometimes not so rich. The government instead, the people in the government who are responsible for the oversight of these oil rigs, are going to get more money and more power because it's a FUMU, fudge up, move up. Fuck up, get more funding. That is the reality of the government. It's the entire reversal of any sane and rational perspective that you would have about how to solve problems. So please, please, please try to understand that the government doesn't care about the marshlands. And we know that because it doesn't care about the people it tortures and kills overseas. It doesn't care about the people it tortures and gets raped by stuffing them into human cages in the country. It doesn't care about the children that it's sold to China and other foreigners for the future. It doesn't care about you, and it doesn't care about your fish or your sea turtles or your squid or your octopus. It doesn't care. This is not where we go for rational, intelligent, sane solutions. It is where you go when you want to delude yourself that you're getting something done, when you want to grab the gun in the room and point it at the people that you think are doing wrong. The government has created the corporation. It has created the legal liability, legal inviolability to liability that is the corporation. And I say, hey, you know, if that's the way we're going to play it as a society, if you can create a fictional entity, an imaginary friend that can take all the legal hits for you, no problem. I would suggest that everything that is good that comes out of my show accrues to me. Anything that is negative should go to this guy. This action figure is my new corporation, and if I go out and, I don't know, drive my car over a bunch of cats and then get arrested, this guy goes to jail, goes to prison, and I am perfectly free, and then I can just go make a new one because I have a plastic bat of me in the back. And thank you for the listener who sent this in. It's a little trippy, but I appreciate the sentiment. So corporations are just complete madness, and they would never exist in a free market. It's a payoff. It's a payoff to the rich for accepting the state to give them immunity for these kinds of actions. So please, you know, if you care about the environment, stop running to the state. It's complete madness. Anyway, let's move on. So another thing that's occurring at the moment is teachers are facing a huge number of, well, there's massively greater numbers of teachers wanting to get jobs than are available, and the profession is going through some challenges, and of course the teachers union is stepping up in a completely unshocking way to defend things like tenure and seniority and so on. And I think that's fair. I really do. I think that if you feel that you know, the way it works with teachers, particularly in New York State, but other places too, is you get hired, and if after 3 years of, you know, positive reviews and everybody, except for 2 guys who spontaneously combust, get positive reviews, then you have your job forever, and you can never be fired. Well, I think that's fine. I think that the way it works, logically, the way it works philosophically, is that you should be forever bound in all your contracts by your work contract, right? So you should always be bound by the least free contract that you have. So if, for instance, you're a teacher and you think it's really great and fair that after a couple of years of positive reviews, you can never ever be fired, no problem. I think that then you should sign a prenuptial agreement that says that if you don't divorce, and only 1 or 2% of you are ever allowed to divorce if you're in the teachers union, if you get married, and if after 3 years you haven't applied for one of the very few divorces available, you can never ever get divorced. You can never ever fire your spouse, and I think that's great. As far as, and you can do that for other things as well. So, for instance, in your cell phone, right? You need to have a cell phone from 1980 that's about the size of a small surfboard and gets reception only if you're on top of Mount Everest, pointed directly at the satellite. You can never upgrade your phone because that would be to break your existing contract. That should be how it works for everything. You can never ever move out of your house. You can never ever sell your car if you've owned it for 3 years. Your contracts after 3 years for everything become completely permanent and irrevocable, and I think that's perfectly fine. If you want to do that for your work, then you have to do that for everywhere, because, you know, we want to be consistent in what we call virtue and good, honest, plain dealing. As far as seniority goes, we're saying that older is better, right? The longer you have something, the better. Fantastic. Then teachers should not be allowed to